Welcome back. We're going to start by turning questions over to Ashish. In describing your research project, do you mind going into detail about what the motivation was behind that, and then we'll talk about some of the other legs to your research as well?
Sure. So the research that I conduct is in mechanically interlocked molecules. It falls under a division of chemistry. I'm an organic chemist by trade called mechanostereochemistry, under the tutelage of my professor, Sir Fraser Stoddart. So basically what we do is we connect molecules in interesting formations at the atom scale to allow for unique functionality of these molecules and to enable basically mechanically driven machines at some level. So if you can think about maybe artificial muscles or new ways to deliver cancer therapeutics, those are some of the ways that our lab works to kind of further those research initiatives.
Great. Is it strictly medical? Is that the initiative that you're taking with your research, or?
So our group is actually speaking to kind of bringing an interdisciplinary team together. We actually bring chemists from all over the world with different walks of life in terms of chemistry, and they provide a really rich kind of flavor of different types of applications that can be driven. So we come up with fundamental ideas and then apply them to different areas. So we work on all sorts of different areas of research, ranging from desalinization of water through artificial muscles, through new ways to deliver cancer drugs, to solar paint, basically, something that you can potentially paint on your car and generate electricity.
Great. So what, Ashish, as a researcher, how important is it to you to have these ideas eventually make money, to monetize these ideas?
Yeah, I would say for an academic, and we have several around, so maybe they can chime in. I think that it's less of a motivation on monetization of the idea as much as contributing something of unique and powerful nature to the scientific community, so that other people can use what you've developed and further the platform that you've kind of developed for them.
Great. Would you agree, Daniel?
Yeah, I would. I think it's very seductive, but can be very dangerous for academics who focus only on monetization. Because it can, part of the beauty of being in academia is you're tenured, once you are tenured, you can do, whatever you want. The whole purpose of academia is to generate ideas that aren't necessarily, beholden to a bottom line, right? And I think, it should be used for the more wild or 20 years out ideas, and again, for, synthesizing fields together and all of these things that larger companies may not want to do, or maybe too afraid to do. And so I think monetization for an academic, it can help, certainly, but I think it's important to not narrow your focus too much as an academic researcher.
Let me chime in from a different perspective, because I'm a business prof. I think we are moving into an era where money is much less important as an indicator of your success. First of all, there's a lot more being generated in the world today than ever has been in the past. Second, we're rethinking money. Consider the fact that there was no money really before about 400 BC. At that time in the kingdom of Lydia, King Croesus basically standardized money around gold or certain forms of electrum, and that was the prevalent form of money really up until, I would say, 1971, when the U.S. went off the gold standard. There was about a century of debate, starting with the Greenback Party in the 1870s in the U.S. about the nature of money. Since that time, we've been on fiat currency, but we've also expanded the money supply through financial instruments, credit cards, $3 trillion, loans for homes, probably another $3-4 trillion. Literally, we have generated a year's worth of gross domestic product in the U.S. with new kinds of money. And we're now at a point where money is not really the issue. In fact, we don't even really know what it is. Is Bitcoin a money or is it not? Is a credit card advance money or not? In a sense, we don't care. These guys really don't seem to care. They're more concerned about nanotechnology and chemistry. And frankly, even as a business professor, I think the more important things in business tend to be hedonic now. They're related to how well you're satisfying your customers, because, yeah, you need your cash flow today, but you need your cash flow tomorrow. Otherwise, your business is not going to survive. And that means you keep your customers happy. There's no piece of land that you're going to be able to squat on today, and you're going to be able to maintain the same value for that land 10 years from now.
So if profit isn't the ultimate goal, what would you say would be in its place? Would it be satisfying the needs of a massive, a large group of people? Would it be coming up with a solution to something that has been an age-old problem? What would be a driving motivation, would you say, or has been for you in your research?
I think we go back, once again, to the 19th century, where economics was political economy. So ultimately, it was how to make a political mechanism work. Our price mechanisms, the things by which we evaluate whether a business has been successful or not, are very artificial things. We've only had estimators like GDP and inflation and so forth for half a century. And we tend to define everything by these particular numbers that we've invented. But the truth is that these numbers were invented essentially to run our society better and to make people better off. So ultimately, it's about what you're doing for people. Some companies choose not to even worry about profit. Apache, Linux, most of the NGOs, which may be close to 10% of the world's gross output, basically don't worry about making profits. They worry about other metrics, how much better people are. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they're concerned about how many people don't get malaria or AIDS in Africa. And these are noble goals. They're also, I think, in the future, what business and a world economy are going to be about, not about money.
I think that it's important to kind of, on a philosophical level, if you asked Dan or myself or other researchers why we do what we do, it is to solve a global problem, right? We go in there to kind of make a change for the world. Would you
Absolutely, yeah.
Would you agree with that? Yeah. So I think, yeah. So moving back to your other point, which is what's the driver for me to kind of move forward with some of these initiatives? Some of it is serendipity. So sometimes what happens is we come up with an idea. My PhD thesis was on a molecule that I developed, and I didn't know what it could be used for. But when I had, again, bringing some other smart people around me, working with me, we found that it has anti-cancer therapeutic properties. We found that it has the ability to take pencil lead graphite and turn it into a kind of the 21st century version of that, which is graphene, in water, and it can be done very easily. So all of a sudden, mining companies and drilling and oil exploration companies are thinking about using things of that nature that could be a possible venue for monetization of that idea, but that wasn't my original intent by starting that research initiative.
Great. All right. And Daniel, you agree with the motivation and with what drives your research as well?
Yeah, I think I wanted to be a scientist, or am a scientist, I suppose. I got into science because I wanted to change the world, and I wanted to solve problems that no one else had solved, and then by solving them, to make a difference. And I think Ashish's point about serendipity is actually a really good one, in that you can solve a problem that maybe from a global scale isn't, that its impact isn't obvious, or it's not, it doesn't seem important at first, but becomes important in another field, such as mining. The laser is a great example, right? When the laser was first developed in the 50s, even people in academia sort of looked at it and laughed.
Well, it was developed at Bell Labs, and Bell didn't patent it because they didn't think it was worth anything.
Yep, and it was rejected from the first journal they submitted it to. Said, no, this isn't interesting enough. You should publish it elsewhere. And then, of course, it, along with the solid-state transistor, have driven, the information revolution, right? You cannot imagine the world without lasers. And it was all because of a Bell Labs development that people didn't think was important. But
even more esoteric. If you look at quantum mechanics, which still people argue over, it drives close to, or at least it's a factor in about 40% of the consumer electronics produced. Mm-hmm. They simply wouldn't work without the quantum mechanical models.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Any last thoughts as to what drives passion, what drives you as a professor, and maybe we could start with Ashish in what drives your technology scouting. How is this a fulfilling endeavor based on the people that you're working with on both sides of the aisle?
Sure, and really, the driver, the motivation that that kind of got this idea moving forward was, in fact, that melamine contamination in China in 2008, where thousands of children were getting sick and some were even dying as a result of melamine contamination in powdered children's milk. And so there was already an existing product that a professor at the University of Minnesota had developed, and it was sitting on a shelf for about a decade or half a decade, just unused, until they saw this World Health Organization cry for help that we need a melamine detector. And so really we found that there's so many technologies out there that could solve global problems that just don't make it into the right hands. And so being a matchmaker or trying to connect those technologies, providers, and the problems to solve global challenges is exactly the driving force.
If I can just comment on this, both of you are basically making the same contentions that so many bright people I know make, that what's important is solving a problem. It's not making money. You make money. You worry about return on investment so you can play another day. So you have power to set research agendas. But ultimately, people who are, I think, successful in technology and innovation are interested in solving problems. They're not interested in running successful companies. Successful companies are a byproduct that allows them to set people's agendas and play another day. If you don't make the money now, then your company doesn't survive, basically.
And we can bring it back to Ashish
Sure.
to close in terms of the things that kind of drive your technology scouting. I mean, is it a similar passion that drives you, to do this matchmaking on a daily basis?
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk to a client and they have a genuine problem that I can already see the light at the end of the tunnel, we're going to be able to save, this amount of resources, or we can come up with a new way to kind of move away from resources that are constrained. So, coming up with biorenewable feedstocks or things that are kind of helping Mother Nature or helping the environment. It is truly a valuable kind of, it's the reward that I get every day kind of working in what I do. And I think it's a really fun job, actually. It's fun.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.